All right, Danny, let me talk about this thing that I saw in the Chicago locker room. So tonight, they took a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Billy Donovan said this to the media after the game. When he walked into the Bulls locker room on Wednesday night, players were already in heated conversations. He asked if they wanted him to leave to handle the conflict. Players said yes, so he did. Donovan emphasized that embracing conflict is key to this year's roster. Also emphasized that this wasn't a huge blow up, that they weren't screaming at each other, and the players somewhat echoed that in the post game. But frustration was clear. This is according to a report from Julia Poe. Zack LaVine criticized the second half response, saying, "I don't think we played with enough heart." Now, Danny, it's game number one. What in the world is going on in Chicago to the point where there has to be heated conversations after a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, to the point where Zack LaVine said, "We didn't play with any heart"? Like that's like game 50-ish type of talk, game 60-ish kind of talk. This is game number one. Mind you, this was game number one at home, a home opener. What's going on in Chicago, bro?
Man, Billy Donovan, old school guy, love him. New Yorker, Long Island guy. I think he is
St.
correct when
Dom's.
he,
St. Dominic's, right?
very correct on how he handled it and what is key, not just for this roster, for any roster. Especially when it's a roster of guys that you've had previous years. Most of those guys have been together the year before. This is obviously something brewing. This is something that has been brewing for some years or from last year. A lot of times you just got to let it hash out. Pat Bev is a guy, new guy in Philly, and I'm a new guy here, kind of, sort of, but I already know the team that was here, certain things that they discuss, certain ways they just debate. You got to let them hash it out. We can't just jump in and try to, figure out, let them do what they're supposed to do. And I think and it could be healthy. It's healthy banter, healthy conversation. And it may seem like it's arguments, but I don't know what the enough heart situation is with Zach,
Yeah,
but I think a
wild.
lot of it leads to a confusing offseason. They don't know if they're making moves. They don't know if they're being traded. Who's being traded? There are talks of this, talks of that. They don't know where they stand. A lot of that can build tension between stars, between role players. And then that tension can lead to stuff that was brewing last year. And then, of course, to questioning other people's competitive play. So I think that's pretty much what it was. I didn't watch the game. I didn't get a chance to see it. I can't question their heart, so I don't know. But they do have some vets over there. They have some guys that have been doing it for some years. Um, you know, can't take it for
Fair.
granted. Every game, any game could be your last. And I think Zach is probably trying to point that out to some guys. We came in like it was last year, and we have the same. We're just going to beat everybody because we have the same group together, and we just thought we were going to win because we're at home. That could have been the message he was trying to portray, and maybe he said it differently, but I don't know. I said I wasn't in the locker room. I don't know how Zach meant it, but when you're questioning certain things, I can only think that it's something that's brewing from the confusion of the summertime and from last year's performance at the end of the year, where they were disappointed at how things ended.
Yeah, I do not envy Chicago Bulls fans right now because it feels like they're in a state of purgatory. DeMar DeRozan will be a free agent after this season, so you already know what that means in terms of trade rumors. Zack LaVine's name has been in trade rumors. You have a guy like Patrick Williams, who also is going into potential restricted free agency, so he's going to want to perform at a certain type of level. And then you have that glut at the point guard position, which also includes Lonzo Ball, who isn't playing, but wants to come back. And obviously they were at a high level when he was healthy. So it's a lot of confusing things. I do not envy their front office, and I do not envy a Chicago Bull fan. I don't know how they could necessarily move forward with this roster. There's a lot of questions for a team that hasn't had a lot of success in the recent years.